The first official meeting between Earth and the Xyreli Ascendancy was meant to be serious, respectful, and historic. The diplomats wore their finest uniforms. The cameras were ready. Speeches had been written, checked, and rewritten 100 times. And then Captain Jack Carson walked in and ruined everything. Jack wasn't supposed to speak. He wasn't even supposed to be there at the front. It was a military escort, just there for protection. But when the tall alien guards opened the giant silver doors and the Xyreli delegation entered, Jack saw her, Princess Ethera. She was unlike anything he'd ever seen. Tall, graceful, and glowing with soft silver blue skin, her long vine-like hair shimmered like starlight. Her eyes were large, clear, and intelligent, but also tired, like someone who hadn't smiled in a long time. Jack looked at her for half a second. That was all it took. He smiled. A big, lazy, human smile.
Ow.
And before anyone could stop him, he said it. "Hello, Cutie." The room fell silent. Dead silent. Dozens of alien officials froze. Earth's ambassador dropped his tablet. One of the human guards actually gasped. Even the translation device stuttered, unsure if Cutie was an insult, a threat, or a code word for war. Princess Ethera stood perfectly still. Her eyes widened slightly. Then slowly, her skin shifted. Color, first a faint pink, then lavender, then full violet, from her cheeks to the tips of her ears. She was blushing. Jack blinked. "Huh, that's new, Captain Carson," snapped Ambassador Riley, pulling him back. "Are you out of your mind?" "I just said hello," Jack whispered, "and she is cute." The Xyreli delegation whispered among themselves in their musical, clicking language. Their guards looked confused. Their lead speaker, an older alien with glowing facial lines, stepped forward. "Your human officer," he said calmly, "has initiated the rite of seeking." Ambassador Riley paled. "What? No. That was a greeting. Just a casual. He doesn't know your customs." The Xyreli official blinked slowly. "He called our princess a cutie. That word translated suggests attraction and emotional intention. According to our code of royal conduct, this is a formal challenge of interest. It cannot be undone." Princess Ethera spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft, like wind through glass. "I accept." Everyone turned to stare. "You what?" said Jack. "You accept," shouted Riley. "I accept the challenge," Ethera said again. Her violet skin deepened. "It is my right. Let the rite begin." And with that, the Xyreli delegation turned and walked away, leaving chaos behind them. Back on the Earth ship, Jack sat in a small white room surrounded by angry people. "What were you thinking?" Ambassador Riley paced like a caged tiger. "This was first contact, diplomatic history, and you opened your mouth to flirt." "I didn't flirt," Jack said, sipping a protein shake. "I said hello." I smiled. "That's it, you called." "An alien Princess Cutie?" "Well, she was." Lieutenant Vega, Jack's second-in-command, snorted. "This isn't funny," Riley snapped. "Because of you, we are now part of an ancient alien courtship trial that no one has ever survived." "Ever?" Jack raised an eyebrow. "Wait, people have tried this before?" "Yes," Vega said. 3 times in recorded galactic history. All of them failed. One went mad. One vanished. The third one turned into a plant." Jack blinked. "A plant. Story? Well," Jack said with a grin, "maybe it's time someone passed it. For science." Meanwhile, in her royal chamber aboard the Xyreli flagship, Princess Ethera sat in front of a mirror. She touched her cheek gently. The violet color hadn't faded. She had trained since birth to be calm, cold, perfect. Emotions were dangerous. Expressions were weak. A ruler must not smile. A ruler must not blush. And yet, when the human looked at her, something strange had happened. His voice had been warm. His eyes had crinkled at the corners. He had smiled, not out of victory or status, but kindness. He had called her Cutie. No one had ever dared call her anything but exalted princess. Why had she accepted the challenge? She didn't know. Perhaps she was tired of silence, of rules, of never laughing. Maybe the human was foolish, but maybe. Foolishness was what her world needed. She looked into the mirror, her violet blush still glowing. "Cutie," she whispered to herself. The next morning, Jack was woken up by a loud beeping, and a voice from the ship's AI. "Captain Jack Carson," it said. "You are summoned to the first trial of the rite of seeking. Prepare your mind, body, and spirit. Failure may result in death, dishonor, or transformation into low-level plant life." Jack groaned. "I haven't even had coffee yet." Captain Jack Carson stood in the middle of a glowing white room, facing a floating cube with spinning lights. It hummed gently, scanning him up and down. "What is this thing?" Jack asked. "It's the trial initiator," said Lieutenant Vega through his earpiece. "It's about to give you the first challenge. Try not to insult anyone this time." "I never insulted anyone," complimented a lady, Jack replied, cracking his knuckles. "I'm still not sorry." The cube stopped spinning. A soft voice came from it, sounding robotic, but polite. "Seeker Jack Carson, welcome to the first trial of the rite of seeking. This test will measure your intellectual flexibility and cross-species empathy. You must solve a riddle designed by the ancients. You have 1 hour. Begin now." A glowing wall lit up behind the cube and alien symbols appeared across its shapes, spirals, dots, and lines moving in a pattern. Jack stared at the wall for a long moment. "Vega," he whispered, "I have no idea what any of this means." "Well," Vega replied, "try using that famous human instinct." Jack sighed. "That's code for wing it, isn't it?" Meanwhile, Princess Ethera sat in a viewing chamber with other royal advisors. She was quiet, watching Jack through a floating screen. Her fingers were clenched tightly in her lap. "He is unprepared," said Elder Vale, one of her advisors. "He should be removed before he embarrasses himself further." "He didn't even bring a thinking symbiont," said another. "Does he not have one?" Ethra didn't answer. Violet blush had faded, but her mind was still full of questions. Jack Carson didn't act like anyone she had met before. He wasn't trained. He wasn't cold. He didn't try to impress with big words or titles. He just smiled and spoke simply. And yet, there was something strange about him, something real. Back in the trial room, Jack was still staring at the symbols. Then, instead of trying to solve the puzzle logically, he did something unexpected. He started talking to it. "So, you're a pattern puzzle, huh?" he said aloud, pacing slowly. "You've got these spirals repeating, but not evenly. You've got dots that appear only after squares. And that lightning shape only shows up if there's a triangle 2 rows back." He looked at the wall, then scratched his chin. "You're like one of those Sudoku things, except made by aliens on space coffee." After a few more minutes, Jack pulled a stylus from the nearby panel and drew a new shape in an open space, a mix of the existing symbols. But placed differently, the cube buzzed. Lights turned green. "Trial passed," the robotic voice said. "Seeker Jack Carson has shown flexible cognition and pattern recognition outside standard species logic. He has qualified." The viewing chamber fell silent. "How?" Elder Vale whispered. "He didn't use theory or calculation. He just guessed." "No," Ethera said softly. "He felt it. He didn't solve the logic. He sensed the rhythm." One of the other elders shook his head. Emotion over reason, chaos over order. Dangerous, wasn't so? Sure, back aboard the Earth diplomatic ship. Jack was met with loud applause from the crew and a very angry ambassador. "Riley, you passed?" "You actually passed." Jack grinned. "Told you, humans are full of surprises." Riley pinched the bridge of his nose. "You do realize the next trial will be harder, right? Much harder. These rites were designed to be unbeatable." "There. Symbolic. Not meant to be completed. Then why make them at all?" Jack asked. "To test character." "Well," Jack said with a wink, "character's the one thing I've got in plenty." Later that night, Jack received a message. It was short, just 2 sentences. "You surprised everyone today? Including me, Ethera." Jack read it 3 times, then smiled. "She messaged you?" Vega asked, peeking over his shoulder. "She did," Jack said. I think that's a good sign. The next day, Jack was taken to the second trial chamber. This one looked like a dining hall, except everything inside was strange. Floating forks, jelly-like dishes, seats made of light. An alien voice spoke from above. Trial 2. Cultural sensitivity and behavioral grace. You must dine according to the customs of the 9 worlds. Failure to follow etiquette will result in disqualification. At the floating spoon? Well, this should be fun. Back in the viewing chamber, Ethera leaned forward. Is he even trained in off-world manners? One elder asked. No, Ethera said. Then he will fail. We'll see. Jack sat down at the glowing table. Blue liquid appeared in a bowl. A spoon floated toward him. He waited. The spoon vibrated once. Jack remembered the briefing. In Zirili culture, you wait until the host invites you to taste. He nodded at the spoon. It buzzed again, then rotated. Jack picked it up after the rotation. The spoon lit up green. One correct move. Then a slice of shimmering fruit arrived. It had to be cut, but not touched. Jack used his elbow to gently turn. The plate correct again. On and on the strange meal went. Most humans would have panicked Jack. He treated it like a game. He copied the rhythm. He watched for patterns. He even smiled once when the dessert turned into bubbles. When the meal ended, a golden light bathed the room. Trial passed. Seeker Jack Carson has demonstrated behavioral adaptation and creative social navigation. Princess Ethera stood up from her seat. The room was silent. She smiled, just a little. He did it again, one elder said in disbelief. He is. Chaos, said another. No, Ethera replied. He is human. Back in his quarters, Jack got another message that night. Just one word this time. Impressive. He grinned. Well, he said aloud, maybe this courtship thing won't be so bad after all. Captain Jack Carson was starting to enjoy himself. 2 alien trials down. Who knew how many to go? And somehow, he was still breathing. No exile, no space prison, and most importantly, no turning into a plant. But something didn't feel right. He wasn't used to winning. Jack sat in his room aboard the Earth ship, staring at the stars outside the window. His cum beeped. It was Vega. We just got word, she said. Trial 3 begins tomorrow. Physical skill test. No weapons. No gear. Just you. Finally, Jack said, standing up. I was starting to miss a good workout. There's more, Vega added. Be careful, Jack. Something's off. Security scans picked up weird energy spikes inside the Zireli ship. Sabotage? We don't know. But if someone wanted you gone, this would be the trial to do it. Jack nodded.
Thanks.
Vega, keep your eyes open. Always do. Far across the ship, Princess Ethora stood in her private chamber, reading a message written in red light. Ow. It came from the High Advisor's Circle, the group that had ruled behind the scenes for centuries. The human is disrupting royal protocol. Emotional exposure weakens your bloodline. You will end the rite immediately. Ethera's hands shook slightly as she closed the message. For the first time in her life, she had ignored an order. Twice now. First by accepting Jack's accidental challenge, then by watching him win. She didn't know what she saw in him. No, that was a lie. She did know. He made her laugh on the inside. He said foolish things without shame. He looked her in the eyes like she was a person, not a symbol. That was dangerous. Also ... Wonderful, Ethera walked to her mirror. Her fingers brushed her cheek again, remembering the violet blush. She wasn't sure if she could ever go back to the way things were before. The next day, Jack was taken to a large chamber. The room was wide, with walls made of black stone. In the center stood a twisting obstacle course floating tiles, moving walls, spinning rings of fire and light. An announcer's voice echoed overhead. Trial 3, the Path of Instinct. You must pass through the course of adaptation. Means failure. Failure means forfeiting the right. Jack cracked his neck. All right, let's dance. Hidden above the chamber, in a small dark balcony, 3 Zireli nobles watched quietly. One of them, Lord Varn whispered into a small communicator. Insert phase disruptor during segment 6. Make it look like instability, a quiet voice replied. Confirmed. Their plan was simple. Jack would fail not because he was weak, but because the floor would vanish beneath him, clean, quick, untraceable. The rite would end, and the princess would be controlled again. Jack jumped onto the first floating tile. It wobbled under his feet. He waited a beat, then leapt to the next. The rings above him spun faster. Laser lines zipped across his path. He ducked and rolled through. He wasn't the fastest, wasn't the most flexible, but he watched. He learned each tile had a rhythm. Each laser followed a beat. It was like a dance alien, but still a dance. Then came the 6th segment. Jack landed on a wide platform. For a moment, everything felt calm. Then suddenly crack. The floor glowed red. Viga's voice screamed in his ear. Jack. Energy surge. Under your feet? The platform exploded downward. For 3 terrifying seconds, Jack fell below him, a pit of glowing energy. He twisted midair, reached out, and by sheer luck, grabbed a loose wire dangling from a control panel. His arm burned from the pull, but he held on, barely above. The announcer's voice paused. Then, system error detected. Segment 6, unstable. Resetting trial path. The nobles watching from above panicked. He survived. Lord Varn cursed. Fix it now. Ethera burst into the control room moments later. Who tampered with the trial? She demanded. No one answered. I felt the surge, she said. This wasn't a glitch. Her eyes scanned the monitors. Jack was limping now, but still. Moving forward, still climbing. I want a full scan of system logs, and put me on visual with him. But Princess, now. On Jack's display, Ethera's face appeared. She looked tired, angry, and worried. Captain Carson, she said. Hey, Princess, Jack panted, hanging from another edge. I'm guessing that wasn't part of the program? No. You were supposed to face difficulty, not death, he said with a crooked smile. Your obstacle course is trying really hard to kill me. I will find out who did this, she said. You have my word. Jack gave a small nod. Appreciate that. But right now, I've got a finish line to cross. He climbed the final ledge, jumped the last ring, and landed on the end, platform bruised, sweating, but alive. The announcer's voice echoed once more. Trial passed. Seeker Jack Carson has demonstrated instinct, survival, and determination. Beyond standard limits, the chamber lights turned gold. Applause came from somewhere mostly human. The Zyrelli were silent. Later in private, Thera visited Jack's quarters. He was sitting on the floor, nursing his ankle. You should be resting, she said. I am resting. This is my resting position, Jack joked. She looked at him. For a long time, you could have died today. But I didn't. Why are you doing this? She asked quietly. You didn't mean to start the rite. You could walk away now. Jack looked up at her. Because ... Maybe it's not just about the trials anymore. Maybe it's about you. Her skin flushed violet again. Cutie, he said softly. Just to see if it would happen again, it did, and she didn't look away this time. Captain Jack Carson walked slowly through the royal gardens of the Zyrelli flagship. His ankles still hurt from the 3rd trial, but he didn't complain. He had something more important on his mind. Princess Ethera. He hadn't seen her since. She left his room the night before. She had seemed distant, not cold, not angry, just thoughtful. Like something heavy sat in her heart. The gardens were full of strange glowing trees, floating flowers, and air that smelled like rain and fruit. It was beautiful, peaceful, almost too quiet. Then Jack heard footsteps. He turned. Then there she was, Ethera, dressed in silver robes, stood near a tall glowing plant. Her long violet hair shimmered softly in the light. You're not supposed to be walking, she said. Jack grinned. And you're not supposed to be talking to me alone, right? Yet here we are, Ethera sighed. You don't understand how much trouble this is causing. Then explain it to me. She hesitated, then walked closer. In Zyrelli tradition, she began. A right seeker must pass 7 trials to earn the right to claim affection. The trials are not just tests of skill. They're ancient symbols of trust, strength, and commitment. Jack raised an eyebrow. Wait, so you're saying yes, she said softly. If you pass all 7, I'm expected to accept the result. Jack blinked. You mean I win you like a prize? Ithora frowned. Not a prize, but it's taken very seriously. It means a life bond, a joining of souls. Our people believe such bonds bring balance. Jack stepped back, running a hand through his hair. Hey. Wow. Okay, that's way more than I thought. I didn't choose this, Ithera said. But I also didn't stop it, and that scares me. Jack looked at her, really looked. She wasn't just a royal alien figure anymore. She was a person, confused, pressured, maybe even a little lonely, and just like that, something in Jack's chest softened. Look, he said. I didn't come here to win anyone. I just said something dumb and sweet, and now I'm caught in a space soap opera. She smiled. You did call me Cutie. In front of the High Council? I stand by it, Jack replied. You are. Her blush returned, just slightly. Elsewhere on the ship, deep in the council chambers, Lord Vaughn stood before the circle of shadows. The human must be removed before the next trial, he said firmly. His success is embarrassing, dangerous. Princess Ithora is losing focus, one of the shadowed voices replied. You failed during the 3rd trial. It wasn't my fault, Varn growled. He's lucky. That's all. Another voice said coldly, Luck may be strength in disguise. Vaughn bowed stiffly. Then I will remove his luck. The 4th trial was scheduled to take place inside the Hall of Stars, an ancient part of the ship where real-time maps of the galaxy floated in midair. Lights moved like rivers. Voices echoed from the past. Jack stood at the entrance, flanked by 2 guards. This place looks like a planetarium from a dream, he muttered. Vega's voice came through his earpiece. Be careful, trial for test truth. It's psychological. They'll scan your memories. If you lie, the system punishes you. Badly. Great, Jack said. So no jokes? It's only if they're honest. Inside, the lights dimmed. Soft mist filled the air. Suddenly, scenes from Jack's past began to appear projected into the air like ghosts. His old ship, his father's voice, his childhood, on a dusty colony planet. Then came the voice of the trial system. Tell us what you fear. Jack swallowed. Losing. People, he said, being forgotten. Wasting my time in the stars and having nothing to show for it. The lights pulsed green. Tell us what you love. Jack smiled faintly. Flying. Bad music. And surprising people. Green again. Tell us what you want. Jack hesitated. This time, an image of Ithera appeared behind the lights. She was standing by a window watching the stars. Jack spoke slowly. I want to matter. To someone, even if it's just one person in the whole galaxy. The room went quiet. Then, green trial passed. Later, Ithera watched the footage alone in her chamber. He hadn't mentioned her by name, but somehow, it still felt like he had. She touched the screen where his image lingered for a moment. Her heart beat a little faster. Then her door opened. Lord Varn entered. You shouldn't be watching him, said sharply. I outrank you, Ithera replied. He stepped forward. You think this is a love story, but it's not. It's politics. Power. If you allow this to continue, you will divide the council. Ithera stood tall, then let them divide. Back aboard the Earth ship, Jack received another message. This one had no words, just a small star symbol. He remembered what it meant from earlier conversations. Hope. He smiled. Leaned back and stared at the ceiling. He didn't know if he could. Passed the remaining 3 trials, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't doing it for a crown. He was doing it for her. The stars outside the observation deck looked still, but Captain Jack Carson knew better. Space was never truly silent. It whispered in waves and pulses, gravity pulling, light bending, life watching. He had passed 4 trials now. 3 remained. But things were changing. The trials were no longer just about winning. They were about understanding, about choosing. And Jack wasn't sure what he was supposed to choose. The 5th trial was called the Stillness. It was unlike any other. There were no moving obstacles, no enemies, no puzzles. Just a white room, a chair, and silence. Ethera herself stood at the entrance when Jack arrived. "You're early," she said softly. "I couldn't sleep," Jack replied. "Besides, I figured sitting in a quiet room would be better than pacing around mine." She gave a small smile. "This trial is dangerous." He raised an eyebrow. "Sitting quietly is dangerous now. It's not physically, but in here." "Tapped her temple? It forces you to face yourself." Jack nodded. "Then I guess it's time I met me." He stepped inside. The door slid shut behind him. Inside the trial chamber, everything was white. Right, but not painful. Empty, but not cold. Jack sat in the chair. The walls shimmered, and suddenly he was no longer alone. Across from him sat himself, or something that looked like him, only colder, sharper. A version of Jack with no smile, no warmth in his eyes. "Hello," said the reflection. Jack leaned forward. "So you're my dark side or something?" "I'm the voice you avoid," it replied. "The thoughts you hide under jokes. I'm the truth you never say out loud." Jack's smile faded. "Go on then," he said. "Say what you came to." Say the reflection didn't hesitate. "You think this princess actually cares about you? She pities you. You're just a human, clumsy, loud, reckless." Jack tensed, but said nothing. "You act brave," the reflection continued, "but you're terrified. Not of death, of being invisible, of never being good enough. And that's why you keep running headfirst into things, hoping something will finally matter." Silence followed, long and heavy. Then Jack spoke. "You're right about one thing." He said, "I am scared, but that doesn't mean I'll give up. Not on this. Not on her." The reflection tilted its head. "She's royalty. You're not." "Maybe," Jack said, standing. "But I've never met anyone like her. And I don't care if I'm not royalty. If I make her smile, even once, it's enough." The room pulsed gently with light. The reflection faded, and the chair across from him was empty again. A voice echoed through the chamber. Trial passed. On the other side of the glass, Ethera watched everything. She had insisted on witnessing his trial, though she was not required to. She had expected fear, doubt, maybe even anger. But instead, she saw courage. Real. Quiet courage. Something inside her chest felt like a song she had forgotten long ago. She closed her eyes, letting the silence fill her. Back in the Zyrelli council chamber, Lord Varn was losing patience. "The human continues to pass every test," he snapped. "If we wait any longer, he will complete the rite." One of the elders leaned forward. "You have already broken the law by interfering in the 3rd trial. Can't risk an outsider joining the bloodline," Varn argued. "Will damage the unity of the Empire." Another elder spoke gently. "Perhaps unity needs change." Varn turned away. "And I will make sure change does not survive." Later that evening, Ethera stood on a quiet balcony. Watching the stars shift in slow motion, Jack joined her without a word. They stood side by side in silence for a while. "You've changed," she said. "So have you," he replied. She glanced at him. "Is that good or bad?" Jack smiled. "I think it's real. And that's good enough for me." She looked down. "Do you want to finish the trials?" Jack paused before answering. "I didn't at first," he admitted, "but now, yeah, I think I do." "Why?" "Because I want to prove," he said, slowly, "that someone like me can stand beside someone like you, not by force, but by choice." Her hand brushed against his. For a brief moment, neither pulled away. That night, as the stars drifted past, Jack lay awake. He wasn't afraid of failing the 6th trial. He was afraid of what What happened if he succeeded? Would he really be ready? To bond with someone from another world? Could love survive politics, war, and light years of difference? And then he remembered her blush, the way she listened, the way she didn't tell him to stop calling her Cutie. Maybe that was the answer. You didn't need certainty, just trust. Elsewhere in the ship's lower levels, silent shadow crept through the hall. A device was planted near the main trial chamber. Small, hidden, but powerful enough to destroy. Varn's plan was almost complete. He would end the right not through law, but through chaos, and no one would suspect, till it was too late. Captain Jack Carson stood at the edge of the final trial chamber. He didn't know exactly what waited inside, but he could feel the weight of it in his chest. His palms were sweaty. His heart was steady but fast. 3 guards stood at the door. The hall was quiet. It was too quiet. Then she arrived. Princess Ethera walked toward him, her long silver dress catching the soft lights of the ship's corridor. Her face looked calm, but her eyes, those soft, violet eyes, were full of worry. "I came to stop you," she said. Jack raised an eyebrow. "Because you think I'll fail?" "No," she replied. "Because I think you'll pass." Jack smiled gently. "Then what's the problem?" "This isn't a simple trial anymore, Jack. If you pass, everything changes. For you. For me. For my people." Jack took a step closer. "Do you want me to stop?" Ethera looked at him, really looked at him, and then she whispered, "No, I don't." Jack nodded. "Then let me finish it. Not for the crown, not for tradition. It for us." A pause. Then Ethera said quietly, "Then be careful. Something feels wrong." She was right. Inside the final chamber, the walls pulsed with light. A floating platform stood in the center, surrounded by orbs of shifting color. This was the Trial of Unity. Jack had been told very little about it. Only that the trial required not strength or speed, but trust. The system spoke. "One last question, human. Do you believe your bond with the princess is true?" Jack stepped onto the platform. "I do," he said. "Then prove it." Suddenly Ethera appeared beside him. But this was not planned. She gasped, looking around. "What's happening?" Before Jack could answer, the lights flashed red. A voice nodded. The system echoed across the room. "Unity is weakness. There can be no future in this foolish bond." It was Lord Varn. High above the chamber, he stood behind a control panel. His hand hovered near a glowing switch. "I warned you both," he growled. "This ends now." He pressed the switch. A loud hum filled the chamber. A hidden explosive device activated under the platform. Jack looked down and saw a small blinking light beneath his feet. "Run," shouted. But Ethera didn't move. "I'm not leaving." "You," she said. Jack grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the edge of the platform. But the path closed with a flash of energy. They were trapped. The blinking grew faster then. Just as the light turned solid, Jack threw his arms around Ethera, and the world exploded. But it didn't end. When the smoke cleared, the platform was still there. A golden shield had formed around them. The trial system spoke again. True unity detected. Final trial complete. The room dimmed, the shield faded, and the doors opened. Back outside the chamber, council guards had already arrested Lord Varn. His attempt to sabotage the rite was caught on multiple monitors. There would be no escape this time. Ethera and Jack stepped out together, covered in dust, but alive. The council stood waiting. One of the elders, a tall woman with silver skin, stepped forward. "In all our years, no trial pair has shown such balance," she said. "For each other. That is the highest proof of bond." Jack looked at Ethera. She looked at him, and then finally she smiled. "Cutie," she whispered, shaking her head. "You really meant every word, didn't you?" Jack grinned. "Every single one." Later that evening, the stars above, Zeroli Prime, burned brighter than usual. A quiet ceremony took place in the Star Garden of the royal ship. No crowd, no speeches, just 2 people, standing beneath a living tree of starlight. Ethera reached into her robes and held out a crystal. It was small and glowing, shaped like a teardrop. "This," she said, is the symbol of unity. It's given only to one who has passed the rite and chosen to bond. Jack took the crystal in his hand. It's beautiful, he said. But I didn't come for a title. I know, she replied. That's why I'm giving it to you. Looked at her. She was radiant, strong, thoughtful, and real. And she was choosing him, not because he won her, but because he earned her. Not as a prize, but as a partner. Somewhere in deep space. Earth Command received a message. It was short, just a line of text. Mission complete. Not coming back yet. Found something worth staying for. Tell Mom I'm not dead. Attached to the message was a photo. It showed Jack Carson, laughing, holding hands with an alien princess who looked like she finally belonged. And so the human who said, "Hello, Cutie," didn't just pass the trials of a mighty alien empire. He changed it. Together, they didn't just build a bond. They built a bridge between worlds, between hearts, between stars.